Once upon a time, in an old, creaky mansion nestled deep within a fog-shrouded forest, there lay a room at the very top. This room was the attic, a place rarely visited by the living, for it held a secret that whispered through the halls of the mansion. A secret that chilled the bones of those who dared to listen. Legend had it that the attic was haunted by the ghost of a young girl. Long ago, she had lived in the mansion with her family, a family of wealth and stature. But tragedy struck one stormy night when lightning split the sky and thunder shook the very foundations of the earth. The mansion was struck, and a fire ravaged through its ancient halls. The girl, trapped in the attic as flames licked at the walls, cried out for help that never came. Her desperate screams echoed into the night, mingling with the crackling of the inferno until all fell silent. Since that fateful night, her spirit remained trapped in the attic, forever seeking solace that could not be found. Stories of the ghost spread like wildfire through the nearby village. Some claimed to have heard her plaintive cries on stormy nights when the wind howled through the trees. Others swore they had glimpsed her ethereal figure at the window of the attic, her face a mask of sadness and longing. Many dared each other to spend a night in the attic, but none could muster the courage to face the spectral presence that lurked within. Those who tried spoke of icy chills and inexplicable shadows that danced along the walls. One by one, they fled, leaving the attic once again to the ghostly inhabitant who roamed its dusty corridors. The mansion itself became a place of whispers and cautionary tales, a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky. The ghost of the attic remained a mystery, a reminder of the mansion's tragic past and the restless spirit it harbored. And so, the legend of the ghost of the attic lived on, a tale of sorrow and loss that warned all who heard it to beware the secrets that lay hidden within the walls of the old mansion in the forest. Years passed, and the mansion with its haunted attic stood stoically amidst the encroaching wilderness. Few dared to venture near, and those who did kept their distance, wary of the whispered tales that surrounded the place like a thick fog. Among the villagers, there was a young man named Thomas who scoffed at such superstitions. Bold and fearless, he scoffed at the idea of ghosts and believed the stories of the haunted attic were mere fabrications meant to scare children. One chilly autumn evening, fueled by bravado and curiosity, Thomas decided to prove the villagers wrong. He gathered a lantern, a warm cloak, and a sturdy walking stick, determined to spend a night in the attic and debunk the ghostly rumors once and for all. As he approached the mansion, the wind picked up, swirling dead leaves around his feet like restless spirits. The mansion loomed before him, its windows dark and forbidding against the fading light of dusk. Thomas squared his shoulders and marched up the overgrown path, his footsteps echoing in the silence of the evening. Pushing open the heavy front door with a creak, he entered the mansion. Inside, the air was stale and musty, filled with the scent of decay and neglect. Cobwebs draped like funeral veils across the furniture, and dust danced in the faint light filtering through cracked windows. Thomas ascended the grand staircase, its steps groaning under his weight. With each floor he climbed, the air grew colder and the atmosphere heavier, as if the mansion itself was holding its breath. Finally, he reached the attic door. It stood before him like a sentinel, its wood warped and weathered from years of neglect. Taking a deep breath, Thomas gripped the handle and pushed the door open. The attic was bathed in a dim, eerie light that filtered through the small, dusty windows. Old trunks and forgotten belongings lay scattered about, shrouded in cobwebs and shadows. Thomas scanned the room, his eyes searching for any sign of the ghostly presence that was said to haunt this place. Suddenly, a chill wind swept through the attic, extinguishing Thomas's lantern with a hiss. Darkness enveloped him like a cloak, and he felt a presence, a weighty presence that seemed to press down upon his chest. Whispers filled the air, faint and indistinct. Thomas's heart raced as he strained to make out the words. "Help me?" The whispers seemed to say, "Help me." Fear clenched Thomas's throat, but his stubborn pride kept him rooted to the spot. "Show yourself," he shouted into the darkness, his voice trembling. And then, a soft, mournful sigh echoed through the attic, followed by the sound of shuffling footsteps. Thomas turned slowly, his eyes widening in astonishment as a pale figure materialized before him. A young girl, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, her form translucent like mist. She reached out to him, her hand trembling. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a fragile plea. Thomas's initial bravado crumbled in an instant, replaced by a surge of compassion and empathy. He stepped forward, extending his hand towards hers. I don't know how," he stammered, his voice thick with emotion. The girl's eyes locked with his, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry centuries of longing, she faded away, leaving Thomas alone in the attic once more. As dawn broke over the horizon, Thomas stumbled out of the mansion, his mind reeling with the experience of the night. He knew now that the stories were not mere tales spun to frighten children. The ghost of the attic was real, a lost soul trapped between worlds, seeking release from the chains of its tragic past. From that day forward, Thomas became a keeper of the mansion's secret. He shared his story with the villagers, urging them to remember the girl who haunted the attic, to remember her plea for help. And so, the legend of the ghost of the attic took on a new meaning. A tale not just of fear, but of compassion and understanding. The mansion stood as a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of empathy, its halls echoing with the whispers of a ghostly presence that would forever haunt those who dared to listen. As time passed, Thomas found himself drawn back to the mansion and its haunted attic. The encounter with the ghostly girl had left an indelible mark on his soul, stirring a mix of curiosity, sympathy, and a deep-seated desire to unravel the mystery of her plight. During the day, Thomas continued his ordinary life in the village, but his nights were consumed by thoughts of the mansion and its spectral inhabitant. He began to research the history of the mansion, scouring old archives and speaking with elderly villagers who remembered tales passed down through generations. Through his research, Thomas uncovered the tragic story of the mansion's former occupants. It was revealed that the young girl, named Emily, had indeed lived there with her family, a wealthy and influential lineage that had once prospered in the region. Her father, a stern and ambitious man, had held aspirations for political office, while her mother had been known for her charitable works. However, prosperity had not shielded the family from personal tragedy. Emily's mother had passed away when she was just a child, leaving a void in her life that her father struggled to fill. Over the years, the mansion had become a place of increasing isolation and melancholy. Thomas also discovered the circumstances surrounding the fire that had claimed Emily's life. It was a fateful stormy night, much like the one that had accompanied Thomas's own encounter in the attic. Lightning had struck the mansion, igniting a blaze that quickly engulfed the upper floors. Emily, trapped in the attic, had perished before help could arrive. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Thomas resolved to help Emily find peace. He returned to the mansion one moonlit night, carrying with him a bouquet of wildflowers gathered from the forest. Climbing the staircase once more, he ascended to the attic, his heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and determination. Entering the attic, Thomas called out softly, "Emily, I know you're here. I've learned about your life, about what happened to you. Please, let me help you." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, a faint rustling sound filled the air, and Emily's ethereal form materialized before him once again. Her eyes, still haunted and sorrowful, met Thomas's gaze with a mixture of surprise and hope. You've come back," she murmured, her voice barely more than a whisper. Thomas nodded gently, offering her the bouquet of wildflowers. "I've come to offer you this," he said softly, "a token of remembrance and peace." Emily hesitated, her translucent fingers brushing against the flowers. Slowly, she reached out and took them, a glimmer of something akin to gratitude flickering in her eyes. I don't know how to leave," she admitted, her voice filled with uncertainty. Thomas took a step closer, his expression earnest. "You don't have to be afraid anymore, Emily," he said gently. "There is a way for you to find peace. You just have to let go." For a moment, Emily hesitated, her form flickering as if caught between realms. Then, with a tremulous sigh, She closed her eyes and whispered, "I'm scared." Thomas reached out, his hand passing through hers, yet he could feel a faint warmth, a connection that transcended the physical. "You're not alone, Emily," he assured her. "I'm here with you." And then, in a moment of profound release, Emily's form began to glow faintly, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. With a final, wistful smile, she faded away, leaving behind only the scent of wildflowers and a sense of peace that filled the attic like a gentle breeze. Thomas stood alone in the attic, feeling a sense of awe and wonder wash over him. He knew that Emily had finally found the peace she had been seeking for so long. As he descended the stairs and left the mansion behind, he carried with him the memory of Emily's spirit, forever changed by his encounter with the ghost of the attic. From that day forward, the mansion seemed to lose its haunted aura. The villagers spoke less of ghostly sightings and more of the tale of Thomas and Emily, a story of compassion, courage, and the power of empathy to transcend even the boundaries between life and death. And so, the mansion stood as a silent witness to the passing of time, its secrets buried beneath layers of history and folklore. But for Thomas, the memory of Emily's haunting presence in the attic would remain etched in his heart, a reminder of the transformative journey that had begun with a single act of bravery and ended with the quiet peace of a restless soul finally at rest. Months passed since Thomas helped Emily find peace in the attic of the old mansion. The village gradually returned to its usual rhythm, with the mansion becoming less of a source of fear and more of a quiet reminder of the past. Thomas himself found solace in knowing that he had played a part in resolving the mystery that had haunted the villagers for generations. One crisp spring morning, as Thomas made his way through the village square, he noticed a gathering of people near the old church. Curious, he approached and discovered that the villagers were preparing for a festival to celebrate the coming of spring, a tradition that had been observed for centuries. As Thomas mingled with the crowd, he overheard snippets of conversation about the mansion and its storied history. Some spoke of the ghostly tales that had once terrified children around campfires, while others whispered about the courage of the young man who had dared to confront the ghost of the attic. A gray-haired woman approached Thomas, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Are you Thomas?" she asked with a knowing smile. Surprised, Thomas nodded. "Yes, I am. How did you know?" The woman's smile widened. "Your story has spread throughout the village," she explained. "You've become something of a local hero, a brave soul who faced the ghost of the mansion and brought peace to the restless spirit." Thomas felt a flush of warmth spread through him, humbled by the villagers' admiration. "I only did what I felt was right," he replied modestly. The woman nodded sagely. "And in doing so, you've changed the way we see the mansion," she said. "No longer is it a place of fear, but a place of healing, a testament to the power of compassion and understanding." As the day wore on, Thomas found himself surrounded by villagers eager to hear his tale firsthand. He recounted his encounter with Emily, describing the eerie stillness of the attic, the flickering candlelight, and the bittersweet moment when Emily had finally found peace. The villagers listened intently, hanging on his every word. When Thomas finished, there was a hushed silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the trees. "And what happened after Emily found peace?" a young girl asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Thomas smiled gently. "After Emily faded away, I felt a sense of peace wash over me," he explained. "It was as if a weight had been lifted, not just from Emily, but from the mansion itself. Since then, the attic has remained quiet, and I believe Emily has finally found the rest she sought for so long." The villagers exchanged knowing glances, their expressions reflecting a newfound respect for the mansion and its history. They began to see it not as a place to be feared, but as a place to honor the memories of those who had lived and died within its walls. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the villagers gathered once more near the old church. They lit lanterns and candles, their flickering light casting a warm glow over the cobblestone square. "This festival is not just a celebration of spring," the village elder announced solemnly. "It is also a celebration of courage, compassion, and the bonds that connect us all." As the villagers raised their lanterns high into the air, Thomas felt a sense of belonging and community wash over him. He knew that he had become a part of something greater than himself, a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. And so, as the festival continued late into the night, the mansion stood sentinel on the hill, its windows aglow with the light of lanterns and its walls echoing with laughter and song. For Thomas, it was a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the world, there is always hope, and that sometimes the most frightening places can also be the most healing. As the years passed, Thomas remained a respected figure in the village, known not just for his bravery in confronting the ghost of the attic, but for his kindness and willingness to help others. The mansion itself became a symbol of the village's resilience and compassion, a testament to the power of understanding and empathy. Over time, the story of Emily and Thomas became woven into the fabric of local folklore. Children grew up hearing tales of the haunted attic transformed into a place of peace and remembrance. Elderly villagers reminisced about the days when the mansion had been shrouded in mystery and fear, now replaced by a sense of reverence for its history. Thomas, now a middle-aged man, found himself reflecting often on that pivotal night in the attic. He had never sought recognition or glory, but rather had acted out of a deep-seated belief in doing what was right. His encounter with Emily had left an indelible mark on his soul, shaping his outlook on life and reinforcing his belief in the inherent goodness that exists within each person. One summer evening, Thomas decided to revisit the mansion. It had been several years since he last set foot within its walls, and he felt compelled to pay his respects to Emily's memory. The path leading to the mansion was overgrown with wildflowers and dappled with sunlight, a stark contrast to the foreboding atmosphere that had once surrounded the estate. Approaching the mansion, Thomas noticed that it had undergone some restoration work. The windows gleamed with fresh paint, and the grounds were neatly trimmed. It seemed that the mansion was being cared for once more, a fitting tribute to its storied past. Inside, Thomas found the familiar grand staircase and ascended to the attic. The air was cool and still, carrying with it the faint scent of wildflowers, perhaps a lingering echo of Emily's presence. The attic itself appeared much as it had on that fateful night, though now devoid of cobwebs and neglect. Standing in the center of the attic, Thomas closed his eyes and whispered a silent prayer for Emily's eternal peace. He thanked her for the profound impact she had made on his life and on the village as a whole. And as he opened his eyes, he felt a sense of closure, a deep-seated certainty that Emily had found the peace and rest she had long sought. Descending the staircase once more, Thomas emerged into the fading daylight. The mansion loomed behind him, a silent sentinel against the passage of time. As he walked away, Thomas knew that his journey with Emily was complete, but her spirit would forever remain a part of him and the village. Back in the village square, Thomas was greeted warmly by familiar faces. The villagers, young and old alike, had gathered to welcome him home. They thanked him for his courage and compassion, and for showing them that even the most haunted places can hold the potential for healing and redemption. And so, the village continued to flourish, guided by the lessons learned from Thomas's encounter with the ghost of the attic. The mansion, once a source of fear and mystery, became a place of pilgrimage and reflection, a reminder of the interconnectedness of past and present, of the enduring power of empathy and understanding. As Thomas settled into the rhythm of village life once more, he carried with him the memory of Emily and the profound journey they had shared. It was a journey that had transformed both of their lives, leaving behind a legacy of hope and compassion that would endure for generations to come. And so, the story of the ghost of the attic and the young man who dared to confront her became a timeless tale, one that whispered through the halls of the mansion and echoed in the hearts of all who heard it. Years passed, and Thomas remained an integral part of the village community. His encounter with Emily and the transformation of the mansion had left an enduring impact, shaping the village's identity and fostering a spirit of unity and compassion among its residents. As time went on, Thomas found himself drawn back to the mansion on occasion. It had become a place of quiet reflection for him, a sanctuary where he could reconnect with the memories of that transformative night in the attic. The mansion itself continued to be a symbol of resilience, standing proudly on the hill overlooking the village. Its restored beauty, a testament to the healing power of understanding and empathy. One autumn evening, Thomas received a visitor at his modest cottage on the outskirts of the village. It was a young woman named Sarah, whose family had recently moved to the area. Sarah had heard the stories of Thomas's bravery and kindness, and she was curious to learn more about the mansion and its history. Thomas welcomed Sarah warmly, inviting her inside and offering her a cup of tea. As they sat by the crackling fire, Sarah peppered Thomas with questions about the mansion, its ghostly tales, and most of all, about Emily. "You see, Mr. Thomas," Sarah began earnestly, "I've always been fascinated by stories of ghosts and spirits, but what I find most intriguing is how a place that was once feared can become a place of peace and hope." Thomas smiled gently, touched by Sarah's curiosity. "Emily's story is indeed a remarkable one," he began, his voice softening with nostalgia. "She was a young girl who lived in the mansion long ago. Her life was marked by tragedy, but she found solace in the attic, where she remained trapped after her untimely death." Sarah listened intently, hanging on Thomas's every word, as he recounted the events of that fateful night. The chill wind in the attic, Emily's ethereal presence, and the moment of profound connection that had changed both of their lives. Sarah's eyes widened with wonder. "Did you ever see Emily again?" Sarah asked eagerly, her curiosity piqued. Thomas shook his head gently. "No, after that night, Emily found peace," he explained. "I believe she finally crossed over to the other side, leaving behind the mansion and its haunted past." Sarah nodded thoughtfully, her mind swirling with the stories she had heard and the tales of bravery and compassion she had just listened to. "Thank you, Mr. Thomas," she said sincerely. "Your story has filled me with hope and reminded me of the power of empathy." As Sarah bid Thomas farewell and made her way back to the village, Thomas reflected on the journey he had taken since that night in the attic. Emily's spirit had taught him valuable lessons about courage in the face of fear, about the importance of understanding and compassion, and about the enduring impact of kindness on the lives of others. In the years that followed, the village continued to thrive, guided by the principles of empathy and unity that had been instilled by Thomas's actions. The mansion remained a place of pilgrimage for those seeking solace and reflection, its halls echoing with the whispers of a bygone era and the legacy of a young girl who had found peace in the attic. And so, as Thomas watched the sun set over the village that had become his home, he knew that Emily's spirit would forever be a part of him, a guiding light in the darkness, reminding him of the transformative power of compassion and the enduring hope that lies within every human heart.